At my sister's wedding, my mom told guests. She's the reason our family struggled za subscribu kano a by ni perzegapic, wiche projwich histori, kator perusha tuj surs. The rain hammered against the windows of the Riverside Country Club in Charleston, South Carolina, as if nature itself knew what was about to unfold. I stood in the bridal suite, watching my sister Emma adjust her veil one last time, her hands trembling slightly. The humid August air clung to everything, making the elegant venue feel oppressive despite its pristine white columns and crystal chandeliers. "You look beautiful, Em," I whispered, meaning every word. Emma had always been the golden child. Straight A's, homecoming queen, full scholarship to Duke University, and now marrying Dr. Michael Patterson, a successful cardiologist she'd met during her residency. Emma turned to me, her blue eyes glistening. "Sarah, I'm so glad you're here. I know things have been complicated with Mom lately." Complicated was putting it mildly. Our mother, Margaret Walsh, had spent the last 15 years blaming me for every family misfortune that had befallen us since I was 16, the bankruptcy, Dad's drinking, their divorce, Emma having to take out student loans, according to Mom. It all traced back to one terrible night in 2008. "Don't worry about that today," I said, smoothing down my burgundy bridesmaid dress. "This is your day." But even as I said it, I felt the familiar knot in my stomach. Mom had been giving me icy stares all morning, and I'd caught her whispering to Aunt Helen by the flower arrangements, both of them glancing in my direction. The wedding coordinator knocked on the door. "Ladies, it's time." Chapter 1, The Perfect Facade. The ceremony began at 4 o'clock sharp. The rain had stopped, leaving the gardens glistening under the late afternoon sun that broke through the clouds. Like a spotlight on Emma's happiness, she looked radiant, walking down the aisle on Dad's arm, both of them trying to ignore the obvious tension between him and Mom, who sat stiffly in the front row wearing a forced smile. I watched from my position at the altar, holding Emma's bouquet of white roses and baby's breath. The guests, about 150 of Charleston's finest, plus family from 3 states, looked like they'd stepped out of Southern Living magazine. Everything was picture perfect, just as Emma had planned. Michael's vows brought tears to everyone's eyes. "Emma, you've shown me that love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice we make every day. You chose to love me through medical school stress, through your own residency exhaustion, through every challenge life threw at us. I promise to choose you, every single day, for the rest of our lives." When it was Emma's turn, her voice wavered slightly. "Michael, you saw past all the expectations, all the pressure to be perfect, and loved the real me. You never made me feel like I had to earn your love or prove I was worthy of it. That kind of unconditional acceptance. It's rare, and I cherish it." I caught Mom's sharp intake of breath at those words. Emma's eyes found mine for just a moment, and I saw the apology there. She knew that our mother's love had always come with conditions, with strings attached, with blame and disappointment woven through every interaction. After the I do's and the kiss that sealed their union, we processed back down the aisle. The photographer called for family photos, and that's when I should have known what was coming. "Sarah, step back a bit," Mom directed during the family shots. "Emma, move closer to your father." Each instruction subtly pushed me to the periphery, literally and figuratively placing me on the outside of our family unit. Dad tried to include me, pulling me closer for some shots, but Mom's disapproval was palpable. The cocktail hour was held on the veranda, overlooking the Ashley River. Spanish moss draped from ancient oak trees, and the golden hour light made everything look like a movie set. Guests mingled with glasses of champagne and bourbon, the conversation flowing as smoothly as the drinks. I was talking to Emma's college roommate about her new job in Atlanta when I overheard Mom's voice carrying over the crowd. "Oh, you know how it is," she was saying to a cluster of relatives. "Some children are blessings, and others, ... She let the sentence hang, but her eyes found me across the veranda. My cheeks burned, but I tried to focus on the conversation about marketing strategies and Atlanta traffic. This was Emma's day. I wouldn't let Mom's passive-aggressive comments ruin it. The dinner bell chimed, and we moved inside to the reception hall. Round tables draped in ivory linens were adorned with towering centerpieces of hydrangeas and roses. The head table faced the room, with Emma and Michael in the center, flanked by the wedding party and immediate family. I was seated between Emma's maid of honor, Jessica, and Michael's brother Tom. Both were kind enough to include me in conversation, but I could feel the weight of stares from across the room. Extended family members, I hadn't seen in years, were whispering and glancing my way. The first course was a delicate butternut squash soup with sage oil. As we ate, Jessica leaned over. "Your mom seems tense tonight. Everything okay?" I forced a smile. "Wedding stress. You know how it is." But it wasn't wedding stress, and we both knew it. Mom had been building up to something all day, and the anticipation was killing me. Chapter 2. Cracks in the foundation. The salad course came and went. Mixed greens with candied pecans and goat cheese, paired with a crisp Sauvignon Blanc that did little to calm my nerves. Emma kept catching my eye from down the table, her brow furrowed with concern. During the main course, herb-crusted salmon with lemon risotto, the toasts began. Michael's father spoke about welcoming Emma into their family, his words warm and genuine. Emma's godfather shared embarrassing childhood stories that had everyone laughing. Then Dad stood up, his face slightly flushed from the bourbon he'd been nursing since cocktail hour. "Emma," he began, his voice thick with emotion, "you've always been my little girl, even when you grew up to be smarter than your old man." The room chuckled softly. "But watching you today, seeing the woman you've become, brilliant, compassionate, strong, I couldn't be prouder." He paused, swallowing hard. "You've overcome so much. Our family, ... We haven't always been easy. We've had our struggles, our challenges, but you never let any of that dim your light. You kept pushing forward, kept achieving, kept believing in yourself even when ... double quotes." He glanced at Mom, then at me. "Even when things at home weren't perfect." The room was quiet, sensing the undercurrent of family drama without understanding its source. "Michael," Dad continued, raising his glass, "you're getting an incredible woman, one who knows how to forgive, how to love despite disappointment, how to build something beautiful, even when the foundation is a little cracked." The applause was polite but subdued. Mom's face had gone pale, her lips pressed into a thin line. Emma stood up, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Daddy, and thank you all for being here tonight." She looked around the room. "Family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who show up for you, who support you, who love you through the good times and the bad." Her eyes found mine. "Some of the strongest people I know have been through the hardest times. They've made mistakes, faced consequences, but they've also shown incredible resilience. They've taught me that our worst moments don't define us. How we respond to them does." I felt tears threatening and took a shaky sip of wine. Emma continued. "Sarah, my sister, has been through more than anyone should have to bear, but she's never stopped fighting. She's never stopped trying to make amends, to build bridges, to show love even when it wasn't returned." Her voice cracked. "I hope someday our whole family can heal and move forward together." The room erupted in applause, but I could see the confusion on many faces. They didn't understand the subtext, the years of pain and blame packed into those careful words. Mom stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "If I may," she said, her voice carrying that deceptively sweet tone that had terrified me since childhood, "I'd like to say a few words about family and responsibility." Emma's face went white. "Mom, please." "No, sweetheart. I think our guests should understand." Mom's smile was razor sharp. "After all, we're celebrating not just your marriage, but your triumph over adversity." The room fell silent except for the soft jazz playing. From the speakers, even the waitstaff seemed to freeze in place. "You see," Mom continued, her voice gaining strength, "Emma has accomplished all of this despite the obstacles placed in her path. The financial hardships, the stress, the shame our family has endured." She paused dramatically, all because of choices made by someone who should have known better. I felt like I was watching a car accident in slow motion, unable to look away or stop what was coming. Chapter 3, The Moment of Truth. "Margaret." Dad's voice was warning, but Mom was beyond listening. "Sarah was 16 when she got pregnant," Mom announced to the room of 150 guests. 16, do you know what that did to our family? The disappointment, the financial strain of supporting a teenage mother, the shame of having to explain to everyone why my daughter was having a baby instead of going to prom." Gasps echoed through the reception hall. I felt every eye in the room turn to me, some with pity, others with judgment, most with simple shock. "Mom, stop." Emma's voice cut through the silence like a knife. Mom's voice came out as a broken whisper. I was so angry, so disappointed. I felt like everyone was judging us, judging me as a mother. I thought if I could just ... if I could show that I didn't approve, that I knew it was wrong. "You were protecting yourself," Emma said gently. "But you were doing it at Sarah's expense. For 15 years? Mom looked across the room at me, her eyes red and swollen. "Sarah," I walked over to her, my heart pounding. "I know, Mom, I know you were hurting too. Can you forgive me?" she asked, her voice breaking. "Can you forgive a foolish old woman who let pride and fear turn her into someone she never wanted to be?" I thought about all the years of cold shoulders, missed calls, the way she'd made me feel like an outsider at every family gathering. I thought about the shame I'd carried, the way her disapproval had shaped my own self-worth. But I also thought about the teenage mothers I worked with, the way their families' reactions could either heal or devastate them. I thought about breaking cycles, about choosing love over resentment. "Yes," I said simply, "I forgive you." The hug we shared was tentative. At first, then fierce. 15 years of pain and anger and love all mixed together in that moment. When we finally separated, the entire room was on their feet, applauding not just for us, but for the power of forgiveness, for the possibility of healing, for the reminder that families can be broken and still find their way back to each other. Emma looked around at her guests. Family, friends, colleagues, all of whom had witnessed this unexpected moment of truth and reconciliation. "Thank you," she said, her voice carrying across the room. "Thank you for witnessing not just Michael and my commitment to each other, but our family's commitment to do better, to love better, to forgive better." She took Michael's hand and smiled. "Now, I believe we have a party to get back to, and I want everyone to know my sister Sarah is the bravest person I know, and I'm honored to have her standing beside me today." The band struck up again, and slowly the reception resumed. But something fundamental had shifted. The shame that had hung over our family like a dark cloud for 15 years had finally lifted. As the evening wound down and guests began to leave, many stopped to speak with me. Some shared their own stories of family struggles and forgiveness. Others simply offered words of support and admiration. Emma found me during the last dance, still in her wedding dress but with her shoes kicked off and her hair coming loose from its elegant updo. "Thank you," she said. "For what? I almost ruined your wedding." Emma shook her head. "You didn't ruin anything. You gave us all a chance to be honest, to heal, to be a real family for the first time in 15 years. She paused, watching Michael dance with his grandmother across the floor. "Do you ever think about him? The baby?" I nodded. "Every day. His name is Daniel. He's a sophomore at Georgia Tech now, studying engineering. His parents send me updates twice a year." Emma's eyes widened. "You've stayed in touch?" "They wanted an open adoption. Said they thought it was important for him to know where he came from, to know that giving him up was an act of love, not abandonment." Does he want to meet you?" I smiled. "Actually, yes. We've been emailing for about a year now. He wants to meet his biological family." I looked at her meaningfully. "All of it." Emma's face lit up. "Really? I'm going to be an aunt." "You've always been an aunt?" I said. "You just didn't know it." As the last guests departed and the staff began cleaning up, our family gathered on the veranda where the evening had begun. The Spanish moss swayed gently in the night breeze, and the river reflected the lights from the country club like scattered diamonds. Mom sat beside me on the wicker settee, still in her mother of the bride dress, but with her shoes off and her hair down. "Will you tell me about him?" she asked quietly. "About Daniel?" And for the first time in 15 years, I told my mother about her grandson, about his laugh that sounded just like Emma's, about his love of math that reminded me of Dad, about his kind heart that I hoped came from all of us. As I talked, I watched Emma and Michael slow dancing on the veranda, their wedding photographer, capturing one last shot of their perfect day. But it hadn't been perfect. It had been real, messy and painful and beautiful and healing all at once. Sometimes the most important moments in our lives don't happen the way we plan them. Sometimes they happen exactly when we need them most, in front of exactly the right witnesses, with exactly the right words finally being spoken. Emma's wedding day had started as a celebration of her love story with Michael, but it ended as something more, a celebration of our family's capacity to break destructive patterns, to choose forgiveness over resentment, and to write a new story together. The rain had stopped completely, and stars were visible between the scattered clouds. As we sat together on that veranda, Mom, Dad, Emma, Michael, and me, I realized that for the first time in 15 years, I felt like I belonged. Our family had been broken, but we weren't beyond repair. We'd just needed someone brave enough to speak the truth, someone loving enough to insist on healing, and someone wise enough to show us that our worst moments don't have to define our story. Emma had given us all that gift on her wedding day, and in return, we'd given her something no amount of money could buy, a family that was finally, truly whole. But Mom wasn't finished. Years of resentment were pouring out like water through a broken dam. We had to take out a second mortgage to pay for childcare so Sarah could finish high school. Your father started drinking more, working longer hours, to make ends meet. We couldn't afford Emma's dance classes anymore, couldn't take family vacations. Every dream we had for this family was derailed because of one irresponsible decision. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely hold my water glass. The room was spinning, faces blurring together in a sea of shock and sympathy and secondhand embarrassment. And the baby. Mom's voice rose higher. She gave him up for adoption without even considering how it would affect the rest of us. We could have made it work, could have been a real family, but no. Sarah chose the easy way out. Again, that's enough. Emma slammed her hand on the table, making the wine glasses jump. "This is my wedding, and I will not let you destroy it with your poison." The silence that followed was deafening. Emma stood there in her beautiful dress, chest heaving with anger, looking more like a warrior than a bride. "You want to talk about responsibility, Mom? Let's talk about the responsibility of a mother to love her children unconditionally. Let's talk about the responsibility to support your family through crisis instead of tearing them apart with blame." Michael had stood up beside his new wife, his hand on her back in support. Emma continued, her voice shaking with emotion. "Sarah was a scared 16-year-old girl who made the best decision she could with the options she had. She chose to give her baby a chance at a better life with parents who were ready for him. That wasn't selfish. That was the most selfless thing I've ever seen anyone do." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some guests were nodding in agreement, others looked uncomfortable. A few were clearly just enjoying the drama. She spent her senior year working part-time while finishing school, saving every penny for college because she knew you'd never help her after what happened. She put herself through community college, then state school, working 2 jobs the entire time. She's been trying to earn your forgiveness for 15 years, and you've never given her a chance. I wanted to disappear, to sink through the floor, and never face any of these people again. But Emma wasn't done. You want to know what really hurt our family? It wasn't Sarah's pregnancy. It was your inability to show grace. It was your choice to hold on to anger instead of offering support. It was your decision to make every family gathering, every holiday, every celebration about your disappointment, instead of about love and forgiveness. Mom's face had gone from pale to red to purple. How dare you speak to me that way? I am your mother, and she's my sister. Emma shot back. The sister who helped pay for my textbooks when you and Dad couldn't? The sister who drove 4 hours to every major event in my life, even knowing she'd face your coldness? The sister who never missed sending me a birthday card or a care package during finals week, even when she was struggling to pay her own rent? The truth of Emma's words hit me like a physical blow. I had done those things, tried desperately to stay connected to my family despite Mom's rejection. She's been the most consistent source of love and support in my life, Emma continued, tears streaming down her face. And if you can't see that, if you can't find it in your heart to forgive a mistake made by a child 15 years ago, then maybe you're the one who's failed as a mother. Chapter 4. Breaking the cycle. The reception hall was so quiet you could hear the grandfather clock ticking in the corner. Mom stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. For perhaps the first time in 15 years, she was speechless. I finally found my voice, though it came out as barely a whisper. I'm sorry. I looked around the room at all the faces staring at me. I'm sorry for disrupting Emma's special day. I should go. I stood up, my legs shaky, and headed for the exit. But Emma's voice stopped me. Double quotes, Sarah, don't you dare leave. Her tone was gentle but firm. You have nothing to apologize for. Nothing. I turned back, tears blurring my vision. Emma had stepped down from the head table and was walking toward me, her train trailing behind her like a white river. You were 16, she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. You were a child who made a mistake, and instead of receiving the support and guidance you needed, you were met with judgment and blame. That wasn't your failure. It was ours. She reached me and took my hands in hers. I need everyone in this room to know something about my sister. After she gave birth, after she made the hardest decision of her life, she didn't fall apart. She didn't give up. She graduated high school with honors. She worked her way through college. She became a social worker specifically to help other young mothers navigate the same impossible choices she faced. I had forgotten that Emma knew about my career, about why I'd chosen it. She's helped hundreds of teenage girls over the years, Emma continued. Girls who were facing the same fear, the same judgment, the same impossible situation. She's been their advocate, their support system, their proof that one mistake doesn't define your entire life. Michael had joined us now, along with several of Emma's college friends who'd heard stories about me over the years. The reason our family struggled, Emma said, her voice carrying to every corner of the room, wasn't because Sarah got pregnant. It was because we forgot how to be a family. We forgot that love means showing up for each other in the worst moments, not just the best ones. She turned to look at Mom, who was still standing frozen at the head table. I forgive you, Mom. I forgive you for the years of tension, for the way you made family gatherings feel like battlefields, for the way you taught me that love comes with conditions. But I won't perpetuate that cycle. Emma looked back at me. I want my children to grow up knowing their Aunt Sarah. I want them to learn from her strength, her resilience, her capacity for forgiveness, even when she didn't receive it herself. The room remained quiet, but the energy had shifted. Where there had been shock and discomfort, now there was something that felt like understanding, maybe even admiration. Dad cleared his throat and stood up. Emma's right, he said, his voice hoarse. We failed you, Sarah. I failed you. I was so caught up in my own shame, my own disappointment in myself for not knowing how to handle the situation, that I let your mother's anger speak for both of us. He walked over to where Emma and I stood together. I should have been your advocate. I should have protected you from the judgment, not participated in it. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. The first hug I'd received from my father in 15 years nearly broke me. His arms wrapped around both Emma and me, and for a moment, we were a family again. I'm proud of you, he whispered. I'm proud of the woman you've become, of the work you do, of how you've handled all of this with such grace. I should have told you that years ago, when we pulled apart. The room erupted in applause. Not the polite wedding applause from earlier, but genuine, emotional recognition of a family trying to heal. Mom was still standing at the head table, tears streaming down her face. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of her own words and their consequences. Emma walked over to her. Mom, I love you. But if you want to be part of this family going forward, things have to change. No more blame, no more holding on to past hurts, no more making people earn forgiveness for mistakes they made as children.